Now I want to talk to Chris Rossini, who writes for economicpolicyjournal.com, and he is the author of Set Money Free, What Every American Needs to Know About the Federal Reserve. Chris, welcome to the show.
Tom, thank you very much for having me on. You've been one of my heroes over the last decade or so. I'd be a much lesser libertarian if it wasn't for all the work that you have put out that I've had the pleasure of taking in and studying. So thank you very much for having me on the show. It's quite an honor.
I appreciate that, Chris. Your new book, Set Money Free. Why this book and why now? You could say we have books on the Fed, we have books on money. What's special about this one?
My goal with this book was to make a book that was extremely easy to read and could be comprehended by just about anyone. There are many books on the Fed, wonderful books, scholarly books. One of my favorites and one of my other heroes is Murray Rothbard, who has written extensively. However, those books can be intimidating for the average person. And my goal was to make a book that would mimic if you were speaking to me in my living room or at my kitchen table. I wouldn't respond in a scholarly way. I would speak in plain English. And hopefully I achieved that goal. I'm very pleased with the product so far.
Well, it doesn't hurt to have a foreword by Ron Paul. His endorsement does mean something, so that's very good that you have that. What impresses me the most about the book is that it's systematic and its organization, that you begin with money, what money is and how it emerges, and then slowly but surely you build up to the Fed, what it does, who benefits from it, what the problems of it are, moral hazard, inflation, booms and busts, and then at the end you talk about the return of free market money, and then the ideas that we will need in order for all this to be successful. This, I think, is the key contribution. And then also, as you look at the table of contents, which is very detailed because it includes every section, just in Chapter 8, I want to just read for people the headings to give them a taste of this. How does Congress benefit from the Fed? How does the President benefit from the Fed? What is the Fed's role in the creation of the warfare state? What is the Fed's role in the creation of the welfare state? What does guns and butter mean? Ron Paul used that phrase quite a bit. Is the Fed independent of government? How do academics benefit from the Fed? How do crony corporations benefit from the Fed? How do Wall Street's primary dealers benefit from the Fed? Does the Fed earn interest on its holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds? And why is the Fed the heart of the federal government? Just that alone is information that I think a lot of people who are opposed to the Fed wish they had a better command of.
Well, thank you very much. It's quite a compliment. Yes, my goal was twofold. One, to make sort of a directory, and as you just alluded to, it's a lot of questions and answers, and that's throughout the entire book. So I wanted to make a directory of questions that if you're ever in a squabble with one of our intellectual opponents, that you could refer to the book quickly, go to the right section, find the right question, and get a concise answer to it. So that was one of the goals, because we live in a quick Twitter, Facebook society, that this book can be consumed in a bite-sized way. But the other overarching goal was to tell a story at the same time. And like you pointed out, I start right at the very beginning talking about money, and I go through the history, but not boring history. I try to make it interesting and easy to understand. And I focus a lot on ideas, because ideas rule the world, as Von Mises pointed out. And if we're going to win this fight, it's going to be because many of the hearts and minds of our fellow citizens have been changed to accept better ideas.
In Part 9 of your book, you have Part 9 of your book is called "The Fed Institutionalizes Moral Hazard." Now, again, I think moral hazard is a term with which many listeners will be familiar, but it couldn't hurt to review the relationship between the Fed and moral hazard.
Yes. The example I use in the book is, let's picture a busted gambler who goes into a casino, runs through all his money, and then comes out and speaks to his wealthy grandmother, who then loans him more money, which he then takes to the casino, blows through it, comes out again, and because she has a kind heart, she gives him even more money. Basically, she's his backstop. Now, it's her money to lose. It's her property. that's fine. If she's foolish enough to act as a backstop, then it'll hurt her economically. Federal Reserve works differently. It finances Wall Street, big banks, big corporations by acting as their backstop. If there's a problem, and we saw it in 2008, Federal Reserve comes in and bails them out. That is messing with all of our money because every time they create even $1, it dilutes the value of what's in our pockets. It dilutes the value of what you earn hourly. If you think you're going to work every day for $15 an hour, you better think again because the Federal Reserve is diluting money that you're making. The other side of the coin of that is that Wall Street and the banks can make whatever risky bets they want. And if they profit, they're superheroes. But if they fail, we all pick up the tab for them. That's a completely dishonest system that should not exist, and that is the definition of moral hazard.
I love all these little headings that you have under the chapter titles in the table of contents, because they are everything somebody coming to this from ground zero, so to speak, would want to know. And let me just read some of them. Who is to blame for inflation? Is the Fed an inflation fighter? What should the money supply be? What are inflation doves and hawks? What does easy and tight monetary policy mean? Does the Fed really create money out of thin air? Does the Fed really actually print money? What is the consumer price index? What does core inflation mean? Don't economies sometimes overheat? What does stagflation mean? What does the Fed's inflation target mean? What is deflation? Why are government and the Fed terrified of deflation? Should businesses fear it? Should consumers fear it? Is there such a thing as the price level? What does price stability mean? And this is covered in 17 pages. I don't think I've ever seen an achievement like that. That these topics that, as I say, people coming to this from scratch, who, by the way, there are more and more of them every day, right? Thanks in large part to the work you do every day. And now you've introduced them to this. So talk to us about the Fed as the source of inflation. And by inflation, what do we mean?
Well, the Fed has a monopoly on those dollars that we hold in our wallet, and it creates, if the need be, for government to finance one of its many crazy ideas, as much money as it wants. I would make an analogy like this. Picture you have a Mickey Mantle baseball card, and you're holding on to it because you believe that the exchange value of this card is going to be suitable for you, and maybe you would want to pay for your kid's college education or whatever. And the exchange value is high because of its rarity. Now, what if one day you wake up, turn on the news, and the news says that they found 1 million other copies buried somewhere that the card manufacturer printed up? You would instantly know without thinking, oh my goodness, my card has lost a lot of value. The same principle applies to our money. When government creates billions and trillions and millions, it's affecting the purchasing power of the dollars that we have. So it is the cause of inflation, not the greedy businessman who is forced to raise prices, or animal spirits, or the million other excuses that are made by government's mouthpieces to try to hide this. And they will villainize and say whatever. They're already in the process right now, for people who are paying attention, of denying that inflation exists. They're really hitting it hard these days. Your bills are just an illusion. Government says that it's 2-3%, and that's what it is, and you just shut up and accept that. The fact that your bills are saying otherwise, and my bills are saying otherwise, they want to hide the fact that the single source of inflation is the Federal Reserve, and it's our job, myself, yourself, and many others like us, to spread the ideas that no, the finger gets pointed at the Federal Reserve, since it is the sole creator of the U.S. dollar.